Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining. I will be starting in a couple of minutes, okay?
Olá.
Lilia.
Tudo bem?
Amazing.
Any questions?
Okay, I think we can get started. Good morning and good evening to everyone. I hope everyone is safe and well, especially our friends in India who are suffering from the tremendous floods. It's a great pleasure to welcome you to another webinar about the residence permit for investment activity in Portugal, popularly known as also the Golden Visa. My name is Marcelo Gorenstein, and I'm an Associate Vice President at LCR Capital Partners. Today we have the presence of Joana Farinha from Legal Square.
Hello, good afternoon.
Yeah, we'll present the legal and Joana is going to present the legal aspects of the investor visa. We also have Rui Magalhães. He's an accountant at DMA Portugal, and he's going to present the tax issues. And Lia Monteiro, she's a financial consultant at Results. She's going to present the financial and mortgage options in Portugal. Just some housekeeping rules. We'll each speak for about 15 minutes each. And then we have some time in the end to answer questions. If we don't get a chance to answer questions because of time or the complexity, we're going to reach out to you. Also, please use the Q&A function for the questions, and you can write them as we go. Okay? So before we start, just a little background on LCR. We are a US private equity and also a consulting firm that helps families interested in immigrating and investing in Portugal and the United States. We have 6 offices around the world and more than 800 clients from 30 different nationalities. We currently have 192 million allocated to residency programs to finance 2 billion in developing assets. Why LCR? Well, basically because we're trained, we're vetted, and we're trusted. We're vetted by the government, the US government, by global and regional financial institutions, as you can see. We're trusted by clients from the world's leading companies and investment firms. We're selected and educated at elite US universities. And we're trained and built distinguished careers at leading companies and investment firms around the world. For those unfamiliar with the Golden Visa, as I was saying, for those unfamiliar with the Golden Visa, it's the 3rd most popular investment visa program in the world, behind the US and Canada. It's a simple and very quick way to obtain permanent residence in Portugal and thus European residence. The most common option is the purchase of real estate at 500,000 euros. This category is about 92% of the almost 5 billion euros that were raised by the program since 2012. The process is very fast, as I mentioned. It's between 5 to 6 months, as you can see in the bottom. Includes the investor, the spouse, dependents up to 25 years of age, and also the parents of the investor and the in-laws. I always joke about this. If you don't want to bring the in-laws, that's fine too. It's the same price. So just kidding, of course. Why Portugal? Well, safety, health, and also financial upside. Portugal is one of the most globalized nations in the world. It was also named as the #1 destination to live and retire post-COVID by none other than Forbes magazine. They have handled and prepared for the situation really well, especially when compared to neighbor Spain. And they are now able to reap the results, right? According to the official statistics by the Portuguese government, even with COVID, the number of golden visas almost tripled in May 2020 compared to May 2019. And the first half of 2020, investment is already 52% of the 2019 total. It's a prognosis that 2 months ago might have seemed absurd is starting to look more realistic. And 2020 could be a record year for the Golden Visa Program. Also, the country's real estate market is one of the best and most attractive in the world. And according to the Global Peace Index, Portugal is the safest country in the European Union. Most of you might not know this, just behind Iceland and New Zealand. These are some of the benefits of Portuguese residents. So you have permanent stay and visa-free entry to the 26 Schengen countries. You can see them in your right. There's a minimum requirement for only to stay in the country for 7 days in the first year and then 14 days in the subsequent 2 years. It's an average of 7 days each, right? There's exclusive access to other European investment opportunities going beyond real estate. There's a possibility of zero tax on global income, the ability to be a non-habitual resident and gain tax exemptions for certain sources of income up to 10 years. So there's a lot of benefits for the Portuguese Golden Visa. How can we help you achieve your goal? Well, we manage the process step by step, working together with immigration attorneys, such as Joana, accountants, such as Rui, and banks along the journey. And other than that, we have handpicked well-structured investments with good upside and low risk. Here we have some trends, the Portugal real estate trends. So according to a Knight Frank's global real estate report of May of 2020, because of COVID, only 4 major residential markets will experience price appreciation for the remainder of 2020. Lisbon, Shanghai, Monaco, and Vienna. And as I mentioned before, Forbes recently voted Portugal as the top real estate market to invest in and retire post-COVID. And this is basically due to a combination of quality of life, cost of living, and healthcare. The Lisbon real estate market, also according to the Knight Frank report, the handling of the crisis combined with the strength and demand and the limited prime supply will definitely underpin the growth, the real estate growth. A number of other European markets such as Berlin and Madrid are also expected to rebound well according to the same report. Here you can see the cities and the forecast of growth for 2020. This is with COVID, okay? This is not before COVID. So you can see, as I mentioned, Lisbon, Monaco, Shanghai, and Vienna. You have cities that are going to have a strong downfall in price, which Buenos Aires, Hong Kong, Mumbai. And then you have cities that are going to stay flat, like Berlin, Cape Town, Geneva, and so on. Sorry. And also according to there's also a PwC report and the Urban Land Institute trend that said Lisbon was ranked the best overall city in Europe in 2019. And the housing market is set to continue steady growth according to PwC. The Moody's financial agency expects the price houses to increase by 4% in 2020. This is with COVID, right? Because there's a shortage of residential accommodation in Lisbon, particularly in the short-term service apartment and longer-term market categories. And this leads us to choosing the right investment for the Golden Visa. We look for low immigration and financial risk, right? So we only select projects that have undergone standard due diligence. This includes the project and also the developer's track record and reputation. So we're just going to briefly talk about 2 luxury projects in Lisbon that meet these requirements. Mind you that buying a property in Portugal is also a good investment, even if you have no intention of applying for the Golden Visa. Our panelist Leah will talk about financing opportunities towards the end of the presentation, and you're going to see that even with no Golden Visa, it's still a very good opportunity. So the first developer we're going to talk about is Vic. They're a real estate leader in Portugal. They have a GDV of about 2 billion euros, and they focus on residential properties in the best markets in Portugal, such as Lisbon, Porto, and Algarve. They're also going to be a public company. They have secured 250 million euros in pre-IPO convertible bonds. And their project is Prata. We look for, like I mentioned, we look for developers with good track record and iconic projects in great markets. And the Prata Riverside Village checks all these boxes, right? The architect is Renzo Piano. He's the same architect from the Georges Pompidou in France, the Shard in London, and also the New York Times headquarters. I'm just going to show you a quick video so you have an idea of the dimension of the project, and then we'll just quickly move on to the next one, okay? That's a great video. I think you can see the highlights of the project really nicely. The next project we're going to talk about is the LX Living. It's a joint venture between a Swiss-based real estate developer called GMG Real Estate and also New World, which is a top tier South African developer. It's $90 million euro mixed-use development in the Amoreiras, which is really a prime location, and it's in the heart of the city. It's a very beautiful property. I'm going to show a little video also. So you can see there's also a very compelling investment proposition. There's a 4% rental guarantee on units under 650,000. There's pre-tax leverage yields in excess of 8%. And it's just a very, very nice property. You're going to see in the video, you're going to be really impressed, I think.
LX Living is a brand new mixed-use development in Amoreiras, a sought-after residential neighbourhood in central Lisbon. This prime location is just a short stroll from the prestigious Avenida de Liberdade in the heart of the city's gracious, spacious CBD. Greenfield developments in this area are extremely rare. The striking contemporary building, designed by one of Europe's leading architects, features dramatic cantilevered balconies and consists of 151 luxury apartments, ground floor retail, a landscaped internal plaza, 2 swimming pools, a gym, a day spa, and 2 restaurants. The building has been masterfully designed to integrate into the existing urban fabric, providing pedestrian access through several entrances into a publicly accessible landscape plaza, which will provide access to the ground floor shops and restaurants. The 151 apartments of LX Living are arranged in 2 separate buildings linked by a landscaped internal plaza and are serviced by 5 separate lift shafts. The mix of apartment types has been carefully compiled to meet the needs of the market. All apartments will feature spacious contemporary living areas, open-plan kitchens, and luxury finishes. All residents, owners, and tenants alike will have full use of a suite of amenities and services usually found in luxury hotels. Ample underground parking, 2 restaurants and a bar, a rooftop garden and deck, various lounges, pause areas, and meeting spaces, and high-speed fiber connectivity throughout the building. This project is being co-developed by GMG Real Estate and New World, the international real estate development company owned by John Raby. A sales suite has been erected on the site, and demolition works began in October 2019. We fully expect to be sold out on this project well in advance of completion.
Great. And so just a summary, we have 1 investment, 4 benefits. So it's a high yielding investment in a directly owned and controlled asset, strong capital growth potential in the same asset. And there's also the family benefit. So access to world-class education and also healthcare, and then access to European residency and citizenship, right? So now I'll hand over to my colleague Joana Farinha from Legal Square, who's going to talk a little bit more about the legal aspects of the investor visa, all right? Please, Joana.
Hello, good afternoon to you all that are listening to us. My name is Joana Farinha. I'm lawyer and partner at Legal Square, and I will try to help you understanding a little bit better all the requirements for the Golden Visa permit. So the Golden Visa was created in 2012 to face the economic crisis in Portugal. And the main goal of the Golden Visa was to attract foreign investment to Portugal. In order to achieve the advantages of the Golden Visa, the investor will need to perform 1 investment in Portugal. So the advantages that you can get after obtaining the Golden Visa will be the right to have the equal treatment as a national citizen, as me, for instance, which will include free access to education and healthcare in Portugal, as well the free circulation in all the Schengen area and European countries. Then you will also be able to have your family with you in the program. We have the family reunification application that it's possible. And after the 5th year of the Golden Visa, we will be able to apply for the permanent residency or to the Portuguese citizenship. Okay. All these possibilities can be better explained by us after, if you want. So additional benefits on the Portuguese citizenship, and some of them were already explained by Marcelo. That will be the obtainance of the Portuguese passport, that it's ranked as a 3rd country by the Passport Index, acquire EU citizenship, allowing to reside, study, work, and retire in any of the EU countries without requiring any other residency permit. You can also vote for Portuguese and EU elections and referendums. The only thing you cannot do is to run for presidency in Portugal, but I believe you don't want to. You will also be able to have multi-citizenship if your origin country allows you to have multi-citizenship. In Portugal, you won't have any kind of issues since the Portuguese government allows you to have 1, 2, 3, as many citizenships as you wish. So, for the Golden Visa obtainants, the main idea is that you will have to act as an investor through the acquisition of real estate assets in a value equal to or greater than 500,000, 500,000 euros. For you to be able to apply for the renewals, you will be required to be in Portugal. So you will have the first application that it's valid for 1 year, and you have a mandatory stay in Portugal of 7 days. Then you have the first renewal and the second renewal. Both renewals have a validity of 2 years and a mandatory stay of 14 days. It's not required that you spend 7 days in a row or 14 days in a row in Portugal. You can spend it, split it together, it's up to you. The process to buy the real estate in Portugal, it's a very straightforward procedure, and everyone is very surprised by the time they understand how simple it is. So first step is to ask the tax number, that it's called NIF, and appoint a fiscal representative since you will not be living in Portugal. This is mandatory for the bank account opening, that it's also mandatory for the Golden Visa, and for the acquisition of the property. In terms of the acquisition of a property in Portugal, we have 3 common steps. That it's the reservation agreement. It's an informal agreement between the seller and the buyer. The buyer will pay a small amount to the seller in order to the seller takes the property out of the market, allowing it to be reserved for the buyer. The promissory contract, it's the first formal agreement between both parties, the buyer and the seller. And here the buyer will be required to pay a more significant amount, between 40 to 70% of the selling price, depending on the seller. The public deed, it's the moment where the buyer will become the owner of the property. So, in order to buy the property in Portugal, the buyer will need to pay 2 taxes, the IMT and the stamp duty. The IMT is a progressive rate that, in case you buy a property of flat 500,000, will be approximately 6%. The stamp duty, it's in the amount of 0.8% on the selling price. Both of these taxes must be paid 1 day prior to the deed. So after you become the owner of the property, you'll be required to pay one other tax that it's called the IMI, also known as council tax. This tax, it's not payable on the property selling price, but on the tax value that it's ascertained by the tax department. And for a property located in Lisbon, the amount, it's 0.3%. The percentage, it's 0.3% on the tax value of the property. It's important to inform that the tax value of the property, it's usually a very small amount, around 1/3 of the selling price. So, after you become the owner of the property, you will be in position to start the Golden Visa application. The Golden Visa has 2 different stages, the preliminary phase and the granting phase. And for the preliminary phase, what we will need what we will need to do is to submit your online application. Basically, we will submit the soft copies of all the documents required by the immigration offices, and after that, the immigration offices will take around 40 to 60 business days to analyze it and to inform us about the approval of those documents and of your application. As soon as we get that approval from the immigration offices, you will be able to, along with us, decide on the date you want to come to Portugal to proceed with the collection of the biometrics that will allow you to enter the second phase, that it's the granting phase, that will start in the date you come to make the biometrics collection. That it's a very simple procedure. Basically, you need to take a picture, sign electronically, and make your fingerprints in the immigration office's branch. Usually, we always go to smaller branches in order to save some time, because if we do the biometrics in Lisbon, it will take around 18 months to have your golden visa approved, while if we go to smaller branches, it can take between 4 to 6 months to be approved. So for the family reunification, the investor can apply with the spouse. It can also apply with kids and children above 25 years old. And from 18 years old to 25 years old, it's mandatory that the children are still studying, economically dependent on the investor, and also single. Also, the investor can reunificate with the parents and parent-in-law if he wishes. So, regarding the renewals, the first renewal can be applied at the end of the first year, okay? The renewal that we have here, it's a special decision from the government that it's only valid for 2020. So during this year, the first card will have a validity of 2 years, and the second renewal will need to be done at the beginning of the third year. So this was a decision of our government, considering the limitations on traveling along all the countries during this year due to COVID. In the next year, I believe we will be in position to make the applications as it is common. That is, first application will be valid for 1 year. In the end of the first year, we need to apply for the first renewal. And in the end of the third year, we will need to apply for the second renewal. So the CEF fees are payable upon the online application. The investor application and the family members applications have different amounts, as you can see. And for the granting phase, all the fees are payable in the same amount, even if you are the investor or if you are a family member. In the renewal application, the amount paid in the first application will drop to half, okay? One important thing that you should always bear in mind is that those fees are updated yearly around February, March, according to government and immigration offices' decision. Thank you.
Thank you, Joana. It was a great presentation, like always. And now we're going to have Rui Magalhães, is an accountant from DMA Portugal. He's going to present a little bit about the tax issues.
Hi. Thank you, Marcelo. Thank you for the invitation. We have offices in Lisbon, in Portugal, under DMA Accounting for Portugal, and offices in South Africa under the brand First Wave Holdings, the specific brand First Wave Financial Services. So the easiest way to talk about taxes in Portugal is this non-regular tax regime, which everyone's speaking about, is only applicable if you make Portugal your tax residence. So the default check is if you spend 183 days, of which 60 days are consecutive, and you have a permanent residence in Portugal, whether a home or you're renting property, you're classified as a non-regular resident, as long as you haven't been resident in the previous 5 years in Portugal, and you change your status at the local tax office, and you tell them that you want to change your status to non-tax resident. So questions is who may apply for non-regular resident status? As mentioned, anyone that moves to Portugal and hasn't been resident in Portugal for the previous 5 years can apply for the non-regular tax regime. The application, it's important to note, must be made by the end of March, following the year in which you became resident in the Portuguese territory. What rights are granted to the non-regular residents? So the benefits of the non-resident tax regime is that you are taxed for the following 10 years, your worldwide income, primarily your employment income, capital gains, rental income, pension, very important, are tax-free in Portugal. However, there is one catch. It needs to be taxed in the foreign jurisdiction. So if you have a pension income in India, it needs to be taxed in India, and therefore it will be tax-free in Portugal. So this wouldn't apply to residents of tax havens where the income doesn't get taxed. Thank you, Marcel. So what are the benefits of the non-regular tax regime? As mentioned, is a pension income, foreign employment income, interest income, rental income, and capital gains tax. All income earned offshore from Portugal will be exempt, as I mentioned, as long as it's getting taxed in the foreign jurisdiction. And also any jurisdiction that has a tax rate of below 60% of the Portuguese tax rate. There's another benefit of the NHR is there are certain professions that are classified as high value added activities. If you are employed in Portugal, you will get taxed, and your profession is one of these high value added activities, your profession will grant, your tax rate will be capped at 20% for the following 10 years. These activities are published yearly. Some are added, some are taken off. So it's important that you note which activities these are, but it's got to be on employment income. That's in summary the NHR benefits and then NHR tax regime. And I'd just like to point out and stress again, it only applies if you are living and residing in Portugal.
Thank you very much, Rui. Very insightful. And now, just to close it off, we're going to have Leah from Results. She's going to present some financing and mortgage opportunities in Portugal. Hi, Leah. Welcome.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon to all. Thank you very much for the invitation, Marcel. I would like to just be very thorough. So at Results, we facilitate the account opening for clients and also all the involvement in what financing is concerned. Basically, the interest rates in Portugal at the moment, like in any other European country, are very, very low. So we always advise the client, if that's the case, that he should try to.
I'm sorry, Leah, your audio is a little low. Can you speak a little bit louder?
Yes.
Perfect.
So basically, like I said, the interest rates are very low, and in this case, we advise our clients, if it applies, because at the Golden Visa, if the client is looking to apply for just 500,000, that's the minimum to apply for the Golden Visa. And in this case, we would only finance the excess if the property costed 700 or 800. The rules are very similar in all banks, in all Portuguese banks. Basically because most of the rules are directed by the central bank, by the regulator, so it doesn't change much. Having said that, like, you know, you can't be older than 75 years old to apply. Basically, we cannot finance you more than between 30 to 40 years here. It depends on the bank. As a fixed rate, it varies from 1% to 170, and floating rate goes from 90 basis points to 1.30. Basically, what we do is help the client throughout this quite bureaucratic process, which is opening the account and then applying for the loan. When we apply for the loan, that does not, that is not a situation whereby the client gets, it's obliged to do the loan. So we can proceed with the pre-approval of the amount. We will have then the house will serve as collateral, and we'll help the client with the bank throughout the process until the deed, the completion. The deed, as Joana just mentioned, it's done between the bank and the bank's lawyers and with the client, or in this case of the coronavirus, whereby the traveling is will restrict. We can have banks allow power of attorneys in order to go to the public. Having said that, every case is a different case. We think at the moment that we don't see the interest rates going any higher for the time being, at least not in Europe. And I think that the best is any client is looking to open an account or to get a loan, to contact us, and we'll be more than happy to help. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Leah. My apologies, the audio was a little low, so if anybody didn't hear any part of it, just please put in the Q&A and we'll be glad to say it again, okay? This concludes our presentation, and now we're just gonna open it up for some questions if you guys have any. I see that there's 3 here. Okay, Raj is asking, even Cyprus is offering something similar, why should an investor choose Portugal over Cyprus? There are many, it's a good question, Raj. There are many countries offering citizenship with the Golden Visa. Portugal is the most popular because of the real estate, because of the quality of life, and because of the overall economy. Cyprus is also more expensive than Portugal, I believe, and we can also share our marketing material with you so you can have more information on all the benefits of the Golden Visa.
Marcelo, can I also add something?
Yeah, of course.
Other benefit of applying for the Portuguese Golden Visa instead of the Cyprus one is that here the minimum investment required is $500,000, and in Cyprus it's 2 million plus a donation of 75,000 to the government. Okay, so this is a huge difference. And the other thing that I believe the applicants might want to bear in mind is that some countries are not accepting nowadays the Cyprus passport based in investment. Okay, for instance, the Portuguese passport issued for the Golden Visa applicants has no mention of how the applicant gained the passport. So a passport of a Golden Visa investor will be exactly the same as mine. Okay, in Cyprus the situation it's not the same, so if the applicant has the passport granted by the Cyprus government, and by the time they go to another country and show the passport, that the border services might not allow that person to enter that country.
That's very, very good, Joana. Thank you. Raj also asked another question. He said, you mentioned a return of 4% will be offered. Is it from the time of the investment is made, or from the time the property is fully constructed and ready to be leased? Can we invest in a commercial real estate in this project, or does it have to be residential? So to your first question, Raj, it's the 4% offered in the guarantee by the New World the New World property. It's from the time that the project is already leased. So when the construction is done, they can offer you that. And you can also invest in commercial real estate. The most popular option is, of course, residential, but there's also an option of commercial for sure. Pankaj Kumar asked, is it a loan possible? Yeah, so loans are possible as long as you invest 500,000. So if you invest 500,000 and the property costs 600,000, you can finance the remainder. Let me see more question. Santosh Kumar, he would like more details on the financing process. The audio was very bad. Okay, Leah, could you give?
Yes, I think that maybe I will send Kumar an email. I don't know, with all the specifications, would it be easier, or do you think I could? Because I don't really know what he heard or he didn't hear, so I don't know.
Yeah, sounds good.
Yeah. So, can you please, Kumar, send us your email here at the Q&A, and we'll send you an email back, okay? And we can discuss the financing process.
Yes, Kumar, you can send a private email, or you can also email the info at LCR Capital, and we'll forward it to Leah, unless you have any specific questions about the financing that we can answer again. You asked, what is the current wait time for the applications process to be complete? So Joana mentioned it's about 5 to 6 months. 5 to 6 months, right, Joana?
Correct. After the biometrics, before the client needs to wait for the application to be approved online. Okay, this will grant us access to the second stage, that it's the granting stage, and that in total, we usually inform the clients that it takes from 10 to 12 months.
Perfect. I see that you sent the email, Santosh. Thank you. We'll forward you the information. Let's give a couple of minutes if anybody has any more questions. There's one more question here. Any reference for Indian investments in Portugal? How I appear loan? Not sure. I'm not sure what you're asking, Kumar.
I think, Marcel, I think he means, how do I apply for a loan?
Apply, yeah.
From India.
Okay.
Okay, would you like to answer that, Leah?
Yes. Basically, what we will be needing is to have, we will need all of your 2 to 3 years income tax reports. We will be needing your bank statements, at least for the past 3 months. We would be needing also a copy of your passport and basically other data as of amount, is it a commercial loan, is it a private loan, and also from this type, your age, to find out for how long we can ask for the loan for yourself. If you wish to have it a variable rate or a fixed term rate. These are all questions that you can ask if you want privately, and we can send you an email discussing all these issues.
Yeah, so Kumar, there's many variables here. We'll be glad to have a call with you, with Leah, and to answer any specific questions that you might have, for sure, okay? Yes, we have many clients in India that invest in Portugal and the United States. We know it's difficult to move money out of India, and we can have a call with you and explain a little bit more about that. Just a few more moments to see if anybody has any other questions. Okay, looks like we don't have any more questions. So Santosh and Pankaj will send you more information about financing options. And again, thank you very much for joining, especially you guys in India and all over the world. Thank you again, Joana, Rui, and Leah. It was a pleasure, and hopefully we'll see you again in the future.
Thank you.
If you have any questions, again, please contact us at info@lcrcapital.com.
Thank you. Have a nice day.
Thank you, Marcel.
Bye-bye.